Good evening, everybody. It is 7 p.m. on Thursday, March 13th, 2025. And this is a meeting of the Bolton Select Board. We have a very packed agenda. And the first item up on our agenda is actually, I'd like to turn it over to of some new officers to the town's force. Hi, Chief. How are you?
Hi, good evening, all. Thanks for having me back again. It is my pleasure to introduce two of our newest reserve officers. I realize we tried this once before and had to have a cancellation last minute due to a sizable incident, so we'll keep our fingers crossed for tonight. So first up is Joe Caralla. He currently is with the Boston University Medical Center. He's been a campus police officer for many years. He also works out of the National Emerging Infectious Diseases Lab as a sworn officer. He is a Bridge Academy graduate, and he's been a Boston Special since 2008. He's worked in both sworn and private security roles, and his current role is as a public safety operations manager. And he has a bachelor's in physical education. So we are very pleased to have him. He is looking forward to working in a smaller community and bringing his experiences to the town of Bolton. And my second reserve officer is Officer Dylan Soldy. He's
Hello.
Hi.
and he's also got some significant experience with him. He's a little over a year as full-time at Fitchburg State University as a campus police officer. He's also a Bridge Academy graduate, but he also has 4 years experience working right next door to us in the town of Berlin as a reserve officer. So he's well acquainted with the smaller town policing, and I mean, he's worked shift by himself over in Berlin years past, so we're really excited to have him. He's working on his bachelor's currently in CJ. He's almost there, and he's got armor certifications under his belt, and very enthusiastic with both of them. So I'm very pleased to have them both on board.
That's great. Thank you so much, Chief, for introducing both of these gentlemen. And I would like to first, on behalf of the Select Board, thank you for being willing to join the force. And I would love if you're able to just to give you a moment to introduce yourselves to the community. And why don't we start with is it Mr. Caralla? How do you pronounce your last name?
Perfectly said, sir.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
thank you. Yeah, no, very nice meeting everyone on here. And no, I'm happy to be part of the force. As the chief said, I've been in the field just about 20 something years over in Mass and Cass, most of those years in Lower Roxbury, patrolling that area. So happy to be in Bolton. Extremely impressed with the Bolton Police Department, and even more impressed with Chief Hamburger. Just the experience, just everything he brings. And so I'm very happy to join a department with the culture that he has made it at the Bolton Police Department.
Thanks, Joe. I promise I didn't pay him any extra to say that.
No, nothing. Maybe a coffee. Maybe a coffee.
It's amazing what $20 does, right?
A cup of Dunkin' coffee stand. I mean, you never know, sir. No, I'm really happy to be part of it. I work with a lot of agencies working in the area I work in. I mean, it seems like we've almost dealt with every agency around the state, exaggerating a little bit, but we've dealt with a lot of agencies, and we're always dealing with different agencies and command staff. I'm very impressed. I'm happy to be there, and it's filling in some blanks that I haven't done before. So I'm learning some new stuff after 20-ish years in the field. I'm learning some new stuff, which is actually really fun.
Great. Well, thank you again for joining. And
thanks, Joseph.
Over to you, Officer Soldy.
Hi, nice to meet everyone. My name is Dylan Soldy. I'm born and raised in the town of Clinton, not too far away. I currently live out in Leominster right now. I apologize ahead of time if my attention's a little divided. As you can tell, I'm kind of somewhere else right now. It's only myself and another officer on the road. So I hope I do have a few minutes to talk to everyone. But I've been a police officer in total for just about 5 years. Started my career with the town of Berlin in 2020. For most of it, I was known as Berlin's full-time part-timer, if that makes any sense. If you can't tell, I love to work. Bolton is my third department. I currently am still on the roster for all three. And yesterday was my second day, first time on the road. It was a lot of fun. And I know pretty much everyone at Bolton PD. So it's a little nostalgic being in there and being able to help out a little more. Obviously, I was able to cover the town a few times working as Berlin PD, but it's good to be official for the town of Bolton now.
Great. Thank you again and welcome officially.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments from Kate or Stan?
Just Joseph and Dylan, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate you wanting to join the Bolton Police Force, and we look forward to a great relationship.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, welcome to both of you. We're happy to have you. We look forward to seeing you and getting to know you. And as always, Chief, thank you for your ongoing efforts in recruiting.
It's my pleasure. We're almost there. So, and we've got more good things to come, and with great people to come.
And before we let you go, thanks again to you and the fire department for the incredible response at the Bolton Manor a couple weeks ago. So
Absolutely, that's what we do. It's just one more way of helping those in the community. So,
all right,
I'm glad it worked out as well as it did. So, thank you for having us tonight.
Of course. All right. Have a good evening, gentlemen.
You as well.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
everyone.
much.
Take
Thank you.
care.
Good night,
Have a
everybody.
nice meeting.
Good night.
Right.
Okay. Next up, I would actually like to invite the head of our Council on Aging, our Council on Aging Director, Lisa Dion, and our Council on Aging Chair, Penny Gherkin, to speak about the appointment of Robert Davis to the open seat on the Council on Aging through May 2025. Lisa, Penny,
Yeah, I'd
Penny,
be
you're
happy.
muted. I think you were saying go, Lisa. So
Okay. I've known Bob, it's going to be for at least 5 years now. I first met Bob. He's a member of an all trombone band called Liberty Bones. And Bob's lived in town for a long time. And he was at the center telling us about the band. And he and the band have played and donated their time and talents for the COA numerous times. And they have their own following with the seniors in town. A bunch of great guys, and Bob is the leader of that, and we really appreciate it. Bob has a great energy. He always steps up and volunteers and helps at COA events, always willing to lend a hand, has a great energy, and is a really positive person. And I feel like he would be the perfect person to fill the empty seat on the board.
And just so the board voted yesterday, 2 days ago, sorry, to ask the selectmen to appoint Bob to the COA and then we forward our recommendation to you guys.
okay. Well, thank you for that introduction. Mr. Davis, I see you are there. First of all, thank you for being willing to step up and volunteer in this way. And sounds like you've already been quite involved. Is there anything you wanted to say to the board?
Not really. I appreciate it. I've been working with Heather and Lisa, as Lisa said, for over 5 years. I started out with the music group, and that's how I got to know them. And they thought I might be a good candidate for the board. And actually, when I thought about it, I thought that was a good idea too. Obviously, being a senior, it kind of helps me being on the board for a senior for Council of Aging. And currently, I'm also working with some seniors. I run a cribbage game on Thursday afternoons, but I've been living in the town for 23 years, and it's, I think it's a way for me to help out help the town. So.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I don't have any questions for Mr. Davis. I don't know if the other members of the select board do.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
No questions, but thank you for being willing to volunteer. It's an important.
You're welcome.
Okay, so is there a motion to vote to appoint Robert Davis to the open seat on the Council on Aging through May 2025?
I will make a motion to appoint Robert Davis to the open seat on COA through May of 2025.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, Kate,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. Thank you all again very much.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for stepping up.
Okay.
Okay. Next up and right on time, we have a sign request from the Kotlars group to place a sign in the town common signboard from March 21st through April 6th for the shredding and electronics recycling event, which is scheduled for April 5th, 2025. So I think I saw Marie, maybe, or somebody, there we go. If you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and just giving a little bit of the background here for the request.
Hi, I apologize for my location. Yes, this is going to be our second annual shredding event, but this year, what we decided to do for the community through Kolar's group was to also include e-cycling. We couldn't mark it as being free. Of course, the shredding is free, but the e-cycling, most items are free, but there is for hard drive shredding and deconstruction and TVs. There's like a $4 fee and a $5, $6 fee. But we're looking for them at the Bolton Common this year, and just love to help promote it and get it out there for the community. The reason we had the sign being the way it is because there was some specifics in regards to what items they can electronic waste recycling. So that's why we had like go to our website to get more information so they know like, okay, no CRT screens, no bring on, no things of that nature that they can have it. That's the way, that was the easiest and quickest way to get that information out.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Are there questions from the members of the select board?
No, the only thing I would ask is I would assume that on your website you have that information that I think you as you have described. So
Absolutely, we have it all on the website there, so it's very clear. And we're actually doing a downsizing event with the Council of Aging, so we'll have flyers for them as well too on the 20th, and sending it out to the community and with the independent, we'll have more information too, just to spread it out to the community, but make sure everybody knows what they can and cannot recycle and electronic waste.
great. Thank you.
Any questions from you, Kate?
No, sounds good.
Sorry, there was just one thing that I wanted to confirm. So it looks like the duration of the sign, at least according to this, March 21st through April 6th. I think it's, Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's technically 15 days. Is that right? When I count, I think I count. Anyway, I just wanted to know, I think generally we say that like a sign shouldn't be hung more than 2 weeks prior to the event. But I think that this probably works if you're taking it down the day of the event on the 6th.
Yeah, that might have been an oversight, but yeah, everything will be taken down, and we'll have directionals. It's going to be like a drive-through like last year, so it'll be very clean. And I've been already talking with the Parks and Rec and getting that all taken care of. Same format as last year, just having a truck for e-cycling.
Okay. Can I ask you a question while you're here, Marie?
Absolutely.
So the 21st is a Friday. The 23rd is a Sunday. I'm talking about March. I think if we amended your request to have it start on March 23rd, which is a Sunday, to go through the following 2 Sundays, then that would put us clearly within the 2 weeks. Is there a reason you have to do it on the 21st, or would the 23rd be okay?
To be honest, it's business hours. Is with the staff who's doing it within Kotlar's group can work with Lisa Shuffle to put the sign up, and I was just being conscious to her time too. So I was doing it during a work day on Friday.
Okay. Does anybody have an issue with that? I think it's fine.
No, I have no problem with that. No, no.
No, there's no issue.
Okay, then we'll leave it with the 21st. And is there a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the request from Kolar's Group to place a sign on the town common signboard from March 21st to April for the shredding and electronics recycling event scheduled for April 5th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes,
and I'm also a yes. Thank you, Marie.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay, have a good evening. Okay, next up, we are joined by Town Council Brian Falk. Thank you, Mr. Falk, for being here. We're going to do a review of the current draft of the annual town meeting warrant. And obviously the annual town meeting is coming up on Monday, May 5th, 2025. So I believe that we have several members of the advisory committee here this evening. Before we get started, just a quick procedural question, and I'm sorry, Bob, I meant to touch base with you earlier, but do you know, you might, if you can unmute yourself, do you know whether advisory plans to be taking any votes tonight as well, or just?
We do not. No, we're just here to listen.
Okay, great. So what I would suggest, because we've allotted an hour, I think almost an hour for this, that we focus on asking any sort of substantive questions that we might have about the various articles. I think there's a number of them that probably the select board may feel ready to vote on tonight, but there may be some others where we want to wait for some further just like typographical changes. But let's try to keep to the hour. And with that, should I turn it over to you, Marie, or who's going to walk us through the warrant? Mr. Falk?
I'm happy to. Marie is sort of living and breathing the warrant. She might be able to summarize it better, but either way works.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Marie.
Sure.
Great.
Article 1, annual reports, the standard first article.
I had an opportunity to review. This did look standard. I don't think I had any changes. So if there were, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 1 to accept the annual reports.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes,
And I'm a yes.
Article 2, the unpaid bills of the prior fiscal years.
And just so that folks who may be tuning in for the first time are aware, this is something that, this is an article we see every year. There's always some small number of unpaid bills that for various reasons, it may be because of timing of when the invoice came in, we just need to vote to approve to pay these, and they're from previous fiscal years. This year, the total is $1,800.45. So is there a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve Article 2, unpaid bills for previous fiscal years.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes,
And I'm also a yes.
Article 3, which has a simple majority vote at town meeting, is to cover wages from fiscal 23 that were brought to the town's attention in fiscal 25. Upon the recommendation of council, we put this as a standalone article. The dollar amount reflects both the unpaid wages per the collective bargaining agreement and additional interest.
Okay, any questions about this one?
Nope.
Jenny, if you can hear me, just one, I can't tell whether if it's, I'll get to you in just 1 second, Don. Thank you for raising your hand. In the first line, I can't tell if there's like a missing space in front of the dollar. Okay, great. Okay, Mr. Cole, you have a question. Oh, sorry, you have to unmute yourself and just identify for the record that you're a member of advisory.
Don Cole, 442 Main Street, member of the advisory. It's small potatoes, but I was wondering if there would be, if we should do something about the payroll taxes, Medicaid, or whatever else that would go along with these wages, along with the interest.
Per my understanding, I mean, these are the subset of this are the wages. The employee would still be responsible for coverage of the payroll tax, etc. This was brought to our attention within fiscal 25, and we just couldn't generate a check by virtue of Mass General Law.
Okay, so it sounds like it's not an issue. Okay, is there a motion on this one?
I will make a motion to approve Article 3, unpaid retroactive wages.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. Okay, Marie, go ahead.
Article 4 is a placeholder predicated upon a discussion with the select board later this evening in executive session.
Yep, so we will pass over Article 4. I also suggest passing over Article 5, but maybe you could just briefly describe what Article 5 is.
Article 5 is the budget. I mean, the large budget that we are required to pass with the additional offsets that are being called out. The A sum of 75K is the standard transfer from the fire department ALS to offset costs. Park and Rec likewise applies 20K to offset costs. And we're, per our assessors, able to offset the request by 100K from the overlay reserve. Please note within this budget that it is contingent upon the passage of an override, which the language makes clear. And likewise, sort of a placeholder goes both ways, that the collective bargaining agreements have not been ratified for the state's 3 unions. It could become just 2 unions by town meeting. The override itself is a permanent increase in taxing ability. That's something that I hope folks who are tuning in now will also take note of within the comments. And, should the override, should the budget be voted down, then obviously we would be back in front of the town meeting so that we would have an actionable budget for July 1st.
Okay, so we'll pass over Article 5.
Just a point, please, Mr. Chairman. Since we have not done an override for as long as I can remember, do we need to have a separate article for an override, or is this sufficient to encapsulate trying to pass the budget, including an override?
I'll defer to council. I think the answer is this is okay, but.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian Falk, Town Council. This is okay. You don't need a separate warrant article for the override. The way this article is structured is the budget without an override is essentially one appropriation, Part A of this article, and Part B is an additional amount that is contingent upon passage of the override. So in order for the additional amount to be authorized, you need both the town meeting and the ballot question to pass. But you don't need a separate warrant article for the additional amount. You can do it as part of the 2-part motion under the budget article.
Okay.
Great, thank you for that. Article 6.
Article 6 is the creation of a capital stabilization fund. This is an additional fund similar to our stabilization fund that was discussed with advisory as a best practice at this time due to our severe financial crunch. We are not allocating receipts, but I look forward to working with advisory, and the accountant and I had both determined this is not the time to dedicate a funding source, but to make the first step so that we can be in a stronger position next year at this time.
Okay, so just to repeat, Article 6 does not actually involve the appropriation of any funds or otherwise directing any funds into the capital stabilization fund. It just creates that stabilization fund that we can use and develop policies for future use.
Correct.
Is there a motion from the board?
Brian, I'm sorry, before you
Oh.
make the motion, I'm just thinking that the word "and" can be removed. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Can you unhighlight? Because I want to just,
Oh, sorry.
yes, I think that should be a period.
Well, I
Yeah, get rid of and.
get rid of "and"
And
and then lowercase "or."
there we go.
Great.
Thank you, Jenny.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I will make a motion to approve Article 6, Capital Stabilization Fund.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Kate,
Yes.
Stan,
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Okay, Article 7, another article that regularly appears on our warrant.
Yes, the only notable difference is that the maximum amount expendable for the cadet program will be increasing to $7,500.
Okay. So just to be clear, these maximum amount expendables that you see in the right-hand column have not changed at all for several years. Those are the amounts we regularly authorize, except the cadet authorization limit is going up $2,500 to $7,500. Okay. There a motion?
Just a second, please. I think with these revolving fund accounts, and I don't know whether we do it here or someplace else, but there's a lack of control on who can access this stuff. And there's not the appropriate checks and balances on people who can access this and whether or not the accessing of the fund is legitimate or not. I would suggest that we have something where, I'll give an example. Park and Rec has exclusive access to access that fund, that revolving fund. I think that there should be a second signatory and approval for all of these funds. And I would say it should be at the very least be the town administrator to approve any removal of funds from any of these accounts. And I don't know whether we do it here or we do it someplace else.
I think it may be an exercise we need to do outside of this context, but I don't disagree with the value of looking into that.
Okay. Well, I'm not suggesting we look into it. I'm suggesting we actually do something about it.
The bylaw can be amended to, put further provisions in place, or, to set forth some sort of a non-bylaw regulatory system for that. So if you're taking a look at this, the questions raised here, take a look at the bylaw and see if changes, that you would want to make there, and bring that up at a future town meeting.
Well, I'm not sure we have bylaws that describe who can expend the funds from these things. I think we have this bylaw that, but I don't believe there's anything else that's specific, unless I'm mistaken.
We have bylaws with regards to the web-based municipal software. It is the town administrator, I believe, for the advanced life support. It was modified to be both the fire chief and a second signatory. At the point of the creation of the Park and Rec, that was the Park and Rec Commission listed. I haven't looked up tax title nor senior van. But I'm doing that right now.
Okay, but we can sort of close this out as a separate agenda item, I think, at a future meeting. If everybody's comfortable with that.
It's fine.
Yeah, I also see the value in it, but I think I certainly would need some more information about the background here.
Yep.
Okay, so do we want to still vote on Article 7?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 7, spending limits of revolving fund accounts.
I'll second that with the stipulation that we review signatories and getting a second signature on stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
I'm also yes. Article 8.
Article 8 is the repayment in total of the stabilization fund for the earlier 345,000 that had been removed. What we'll be asking the voters to approve is transferring $230,000 from free cash to the stabilization fund.
Any comments on this from the other members of the select board or advisory?
No.
So just in case people are watching, and please chime in if anybody else has a different memory, but we explicitly contemplated making these repayments when this was initially presented to annual town meeting in 2023. And so this isn't anything new. This is making good on sort of what the plan had been presented as at the time, right?
No, it's actually accelerating the payment. We're doing 2 payments instead of 1.
So it'll be paid in full with this payment.
Right.
Yes.
We were supposed to do $315,000 payments, and we're now doing one $230,000 payment. We're accelerating this.
Oh, right. Good point.
Keeping our percentage stabilization as compared to the omnibus within our standard guidelines.
Yep. Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve Article 8 to replenish the stabilization fund.
I'll second that.
Roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
I'm also a yes.
Article 9 is the adoption of Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3D, which is creation of a committee. The membership is prescribed by the Mass General Law, which is able to accept donations, set up criteria, and make direct payments to the tax collector to offset seniors' tax bills.
Do folks have questions about this? Basically, this involves 2 things. One is people can voluntarily decide that they're gonna pledge additional amounts when they submit their tax bills. That could then be basically this committee would be able to establish some policies where they distribute those voluntarily paid funds to help elderly and disabled residents who are struggling with their tax bills, right? In a nutshell, that's what this is doing. So it doesn't require anything of anybody if they're not willing to do it.
In effect, it's a charitable donation with 0 overhead.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, is there a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 9, Committee on Senior Tax Policy.
I will second that.
A roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
I'm also a yes.
Article 10 is reflective of, it increases the fines for failure to license dog. It is reflective of the amount of work that the town clerk's office is engaged in. And so the notable change is that the late fee on May 1st is doubling to $50. And the failure to license fee as of June 1st will be increased to $100.
We've discussed this multiple times, and I
Yes.
assume there's a motion on it.
I'll make a motion to approve Article 10 to amend the bylaw on action upon failure to license dogs.
I will second that.
Okay, roll call. Kate,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
and I'm also yes.
Article 11 was inserted at the request of the town treasurer. It basically allows the town treasurer to place the town's monies in effect, a more diversified investment. I'm trying to think of the word, but
Folio?
thank you. Yeah, the MBA is gone. But basically, it does not mean that one is engaged in higher risk investing. And in effect, by being able to diversify where you're placing the town's money, you're actually, in effect, reducing the town's risk.
Okay. Question?
That was the word. Ugh.
I actually had a question for Mr. Falk, and you may not know, but just in your experience, are a lot of municipalities adopting this since it became?
I will say this is the first warrant of the number that I'm looking at this year that I've seen this. It is, you know, many of the folks in the municipal finance community think this is a good idea and are adopting it. I think the summary explains it really well, and as the town administrator just mentioned, it's not necessarily taking greater risk with town funds. It just gives the those that hold trust funds a little fewer restrictions, a little bit less conservative approach that, for the most part, following the prudent investor rule, is going to result in, you know, a better income from these funds.
Got it. Thank you. Is there a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 11, adoption of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 54B, Prudent Investor Rule.
I'll second this.
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. I'll just briefly mention on Article 12, I had tried to reach out earlier to the town accountant because I just had a couple questions about this. So I would prefer to pass over this until our next meeting. Is that okay with you and you two?
Yep.
What does our town administrator have to say about this one?
The town accountant had talked it through with me about 4 months ago, and I was just reaching for my materials because I cannot recall. In effect, the net was it doesn't cost more, but I'm not entirely clear on the mechanisms.
All right, well then let's defer it to the next meeting.
Okay. Article 13.
Article 13 is an update of the fines for the non-criminal disposition. The select board is very familiar with this. The other notable change is that one of the fines has been struck, as it has not ever been used in recent memory. That is the hawking of fish, fruits, and vegetables. But based on using fines for non-criminal disposition as a deterrent value, the select board viewed these amounts as meeting the need.
We've discussed this all previously.
Yep. I'll make a motion to approve Article 13 to amend bylaw on non-criminal disposition.
I will second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
I'm also yes.
For the next set of articles, under the direction of the planning board, I am turning it over to Attorney Falk.
Well, thank you, Marie. So, we have an ambitious planning board this year with a number of zoning amendments, on the warrant. And some of them are new ideas and some of them are, some housekeeping items to, make some fixes. The sign bylaw, the changes are, I think, I made some edits that I share with the town planner. I'm not sure if the planning board has seen those yet and approved them. So I defer if some of this language may change, but most of these articles in the last version that I saw from Jenny incorporate a number of the changes that I suggested.
Thank you for mentioning that, because I actually wanted to also add, I think with respect to the slate of planning board articles that we're going to go over tonight, this falls in the category of we may have questions, but I would be reluctant to actually vote on them tonight because I think we want the planning board a chance to maybe potentially revote on some of those things. So why don't we just plan to go through and ask any substantive questions, but actually defer voting until our next meeting, if that's sounds like a plan.
Well, actually, has the planning board had any of their public hearings regarding any of these bylaw amendments or changes?
Last night.
And what result did they have with those?
I didn't stay until the end of it, but there was a lot of discussion and revision based on town council's comments and discussion amongst the planning board.
Oh, well, I think it would be prudent to wait till whether it's the next meeting or whatever, to get all that in before we contemplate, because these things could change substantially between what we see here and what was discussed last night and what may come out next time.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I did attend last night and some of the questions that I had were mostly related to the temporary signs. And there was a long, lengthy discussion that resulted in some complete revisions to the temporary signage language. And I don't think the board has seen that until this draft today. And I don't know, I had some questions for town council on First Amendment issues regarding regulation of sign content and that sort of thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, through the chair, to that point, that's the number one concern with amending a sign bylaw. Many communities have sign bylaws that have been in place for decades, and they haven't been changed, and their enforceability or certain portions of their enforceability might be subject to challenge as First Amendment decisions from the Supreme Court have developed over the years. So one thing you always look at is content regulation. You need to minimize or eliminate content regulation. So that's sometimes when towns look to amend their sign bylaw, and I take a look, we have to make some additional changes. So if we're going to put the entire bylaw amended back before the Attorney General's office, they're going to look at it with a fresh set of eyes under current First Amendment law, rather than provisions that have been there all along and no one has challenged them.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking to see if the planning board's calendar is up. So if there were a bunch of changes made last night, it sounds like we need to give the planning board time to potentially review and vote on those. Is that what I'm understanding? Yes.
I think so.
Okay. I was under the impression that the version of the warrant we were getting today incorporated changes made last night, but it sounds like maybe they weren't actually all voted on or considered.
It does.
They
but
were, sorry, they were voted on because Pam had me insert the unanimous approvals and the planning board recommendations on the warrant. The only changes that have been made were the modifications that were made this afternoon, some
Okay.
like
All right.
grammatical changes.
But it sounds like everybody would prefer to pass over these until the next meeting.
And I also would want council to review the changes that were made in light of the kind of First Amendment issues.
The changes that were made last night.
Right.
Got it. Okay. Good. So should we skip over all of the planning board articles then? Because that brings us pretty close to the end of the warrant.
I didn't have comments or thoughts on the other planning board articles, so.
Okay, let's skip over those for now.
Did you have any questions for Attorney Falk while he's here? Because he will not be at our next meeting.
Can you scroll through, Jenny, to just take a look at the highlights real quick?
Do you want me to show changes?
No, I think we were going to highlight some areas. Is that
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yep. So the highlighted areas. Let me go back up. Find out what was the first one.
Okay. This is just like a little housekeeping thing. So on this page, page 10, subsection M, removal of existing signs. Currently, as drafted, it just says non-conforming signs, and I was wondering whether it should say existing non-conforming signs, or if it doesn't matter. We would obviously not capitalize the word non-conforming, but I feel like I hear existing non-conforming a lot in other contexts, so I don't know if we want to say existing non-conforming signs.
Yeah, I think the terminology you might be looking for is pre-existing non-conforming signs, which essentially means they predated whatever change to the bylaw now makes them non-conforming.
Okay, so would you recommend that we make that change?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay.
I think it may have been in there, and there was discussion last night about excess verbiage.
Okay. Another thing is that I just wasn't clear to me what this pointing to subsection E1 was, because it's not within this particular bylaw. This may be a question for our town planner, Mr. Falk, if you don't know off the top of your head.
I don't, and I'm looking at the changes I suggested, and I think I noted that. So I would defer to the town planner, and she and I can put our heads together in terms of what changes the planning board made from the version that I submitted, and then we can have a consistent report back to the board when they take it up again.
Okay. I'm sorry to bother you. This is literally just like my brain is not computing. So these definitions of ADU and LADU and LDADU, are those from the state statute, Mr. Falk?
So some of the definitions you see here are from the statute, like accessory dwelling unit. Some of the other ones, like large accessory dwelling unit, which LADU, are Bolton's homegrown definition. And so what this article does is two things. Number one, amends our zoning bylaw, new state law, which you may be aware of, that made certain types of accessory dwelling units permitted as of right statewide in all single-family zoning districts. So whether your zoning says so or not, anyone in a single-family zoning district can, if the dimensions allow and sewer treatment allows, build an accessory dwelling unit of 900 square feet or smaller by right with just a building permit. Towns may further regulate ADUs through site plan approval and some regional dimensional controls, but the as of right ADU is now state law. It's actually under the Dover Amendment, the same statute that protects educational uses and religious uses. This amends our zoning to comply or to align it with the new state law, so we don't have contradictory provisions that are unenforceable. But then it provides some additional types of uses that aren't allowed as of right, necessarily under the state law, but comes up with a Bolton regulatory scheme for these types of accessory dwelling units, such as large accessory dwelling units that are over the state maximum of 900 square feet.
Okay, this is helpful. So the thing that I'm struggling with, and this is probably me just like my brain not working right now, but when I read through the definition of large accessory dwelling unit and also the next one, large detached accessory dwelling unit, I don't understand how a dwelling unit can be in excess of half the gross floor area of the principal dwelling, but then have a maximum size of 1/3 the gross floor area of the single family dwelling unit. Because it seems like in order to qualify as large, you have to be potentially bigger than half, but then your maximum size has to be no more than 1/3. And I don't know, again, I just might not be getting it here, but I couldn't wrap my mind around how this actually works.
No, it's a good point, and I understood where the board was going with this when I first reviewed it, but the fact that you have questions means that we probably need to make some tweaks to make it clearer. Because our maximum is 900 square feet, or it's less for an as of right unit. So if I have an 1,800 square foot home, I get 900 square feet. If I have a 2,000 square foot home, I get 900 square feet. I think this is an attempt to address the fact that we have some rather large homes in Bolton that would, you could be in a situation where you're capped at 1/3 of the gross floor area of a very large single family home, but you're still over the state minimum of 900 square feet. But it could probably be made more clear in terms of what this is intended to do.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be helpful. I think if it were just I think it should be easy to understand. Essentially, like obviously both of these two provisions are trying to give expanded capacity beyond just the regular ADU.
Yep.
I think as they're written right now, they may not do that. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yep.
Okay. Can you keep scrolling, Jenny? We can ask Pam. We can ask Pam that later. Yeah, you may not know this, Mr. Falk, but in the definition of new construction, there was some language that was italicized, and I just didn't know whether there was a reason for that substantively, if it was just like a strange formatting carryover.
So this is in our amendments to the floodplain overlay district.
Yep.
And planning types and municipal lawyers have to sort of hold their nose a little bit with these new requirements. And this is not meant to disparage FEMA or the state agency that is doing FEMA's work here. But we have some mandatory language that FEMA insists must be in a town bylaw in order for the town's residents continue to participate in the federal flood insurance program, which we certainly want people to be able to do.
Yep.
And I have, for another client, had some back and forth with the state on this, and a lot of these provisions that you think, why is this in a zoning bylaw? Why are we calling a variance something else when it means something totally different in the zoning context? I mean, the answer is essentially FEMA requires this provision. And
Okay.
So the best approach that we have found with a lot of this is to clarify that these definitions are self-contained within this provision of the zoning bylaw and do not look to use them anywhere else because it won't work. So things like the word development, which is used throughout our zoning bylaw, don't use this term development to look to find the definition for development elsewhere in the zoning bylaw.
I see.
It's same with variance and other things. So I would do things a lot differently, if I had, the ability to do so, but I don't think we do, because we need to have the mandatory FEMA language in place, by July 1st, so that we can continue participating in the flood insurance program.
Okay, maybe then Jenny, we can just check with Pam on this question of like, does that actually have to be italicized? And if not, we'll just make it look like the rest of the text. Okay. Oh yeah, okay, so this, scroll up for a second, Jenny, please. So this article is about the change in the site plan review process. And I know we see a bunch of strike throughs, and I was just noting that I think the highlighted sentence actually should be struck through in its entirety, because it was drafted when the select board's action depended on receiving advice from the planning board, but since the planning board is handling it entirely, I don't think this sentence makes sense anymore.
And as I have stated before, I think the select board should be involved in site plan review. I think it's a mistake that we are being eliminated from site planning review, because in past years, the planning board, not constituted today, but in the past, made some reckless decisions. And it required the select board to go in there and to fight for the developer because of poor decisions being made by the then planning board. I think it's a mistake.
I agree, Brian, that with regard to the revisions here, that sentence is supposed to come out.
Okay. All right.
Should I strike that here or should I leave it highlighted and discuss it with Pam?
I think just make her aware of it, but yeah.
Let's strike it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jenny. This is the Phosphid bylaw.
It's this little guy.
Yeah, we can ask Pam what that footnote points to. And then I will confess I haven't had time to read through the cottage overlay bylaw yet either, because it came in. So I think we can probably pass over this one as well. Unless people had questions about it, because I don't have any questions right now, and but I don't know if Kate or Stan do.
No.
Okay. Back to you, Marie, on Article 20.
All right, back to Article 21, which is obviating the need for all alcohol pouring licensees to have to file a home rule petition. Currently, through the census process, the town of Bolton is allocated 14 all alcohol pouring licenses. But by virtue of prior votes around the turn of the 1900s, we are not able to access those. This doesn't change the process of approval of an all alcohol pouring license. Applicants would still be coming before the select board as the local licensing authority, and likewise need the approval of the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission, but it does make it easier, should we have additional eateries that wish to offer an all alcohol pouring license, to be able to give them a path forward for their business.
Any questions for Marie or Mr. Falk about this?
No.
Nope.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 21, Special Act Alcoholic Beverage Licenses.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, Stan.
Yes.
Kate.
Yes.
And I'm also yes.
Next article acknowledges the use of the website as the official posting for the town of Bolton. Currently, the bylaws require a mailing of the warrant. We've been able to, through the generosity of the local newspaper, have the newspaper distribute, but prospectively, it makes sense for us to point all voters to the website.
This makes sense to me, although I was just going to suggest, if people agree, since both subsections A and B are dealing with either annual town meeting or special town meeting, we might just change the title of the article to say amend bylaw on notice of town meetings. So it doesn't imply like all board and committee meetings.
That makes sense to me.
Fine.
Okay. Motion, anyone?
I will make a motion to approve Article 22 to amend bylaw on notice of town meetings.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
I'm also a yes.
Article 23 is the consolidation of two earlier articles for the wastewater treatment facility, plus the addition of $10,000 for a total defined and discrete bunch of money, $33,550. This is the work that is required by the end of December 2026.
I was comfortable with this. My only suggestion, or I guess question for you, Marie, is I know it says discharge permit requires replacement of equipment by 2026. I don't know if there's just a word or two that we can introduce to make it clear that this is like a state required, like it isn't a discretionary thing.
DEP, okay, the DEP, yep, requires replacement equipment by December 2026, yep.
But otherwise, I thought it was pretty clear.
Article 24.
Sorry, do we want to make a motion on this one?
Yep. I'll make a motion to approve Article 23 wastewater treatment facility upgrades.
I will second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Okay, 24.
For Article 24, actually, I'm recommending that we strike the article. The Frankensander, a great idea in terms of reality, is not advisable to go forward in this format.
All right, striking the Frankensander article. Okay, so Article 24 becomes the Florence Sawyer School replacement boiler.
Right. This is the final payment on the Riello boiler that the town had verbally promised we would pay.
I will make a motion to approve Article 24 Florence Sawyer School replacement boiler.
I will second that, but I do have a question. Is the district still pursuing getting the monies back through the warranty? Or is that ended?
They are pursuing it. I believe that their success on that has been similar to some of our success, but yes, it is not lost.
And if they are successful, they will reimburse the town of Bolton?
I hope so. I'm hoping that it is not, that we are not obligated to cover their legal fees though for this.
Okay.
Okay, so motion has been seconded. Roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
And I'm also yes. Jenny, I think we may have an extra line space now between Article 24 and 25, just at that bottom of Article 24. And then on Article 25, I actually, since we have the vote of intention to lay out Goose Pond path later in under select board business, I don't know whether I guess we can still consider this now and then just know that logically we have to do the next step. So did people have a thought about whether they want to vote on this now or wait until next meeting?
I'm fine with it now. I mean, it is, have they done what they need to do? Relative to finishing the road and the as-built and the engineers gone out there?
Yeah, I mean, we've got all the required materials submitted, right, Marie?
We do.
And then I'm fine with approving that.
Sorry,
now.
I just want to recognize there's a question. So if you can put yourself on camera and identify yourself with your name and your road or street address.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Ballister. I live on Goose Pond Path. And I was just wondering if the planning board had accepted this yet. We haven't received any notification as the abutters, neighbors, residents, whatever it is.
There's a notification that is going out tomorrow.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, that is the normal part of the process. The board will first vote its intention to lay out the way, notify the relevant parties, and then take a second vote to actually do the layout, which has to happen before town meeting.
Got it. Okay, that's really helpful. So we'll vote our intention later tonight. We'll approve to put this article on the warrant, but then that other step will have to happen before annual town meeting where we vote to actually lay it out, right?
Right, and it has to happen at least 7 days before town meeting with the layout plan filed with the town clerk.
Okay, thank you for that.
May I ask one more question? Should the sponsor be planning board or should the sponsor be select board?
I mean, the select board is the body that actually does the layout subject to town meeting approval by statute. Typically, the planning board advances these articles because it's the final step in the subdivision process. It's essentially the last thing the planning board will do. So it is common that they would be the sponsor, even though they're not the ones who do the actual layout.
Good question, Jenny. Thank you. Okay, is there a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 25, roads and easements acceptance, Tadmore Development.
I will second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Jenny, I think there were maybe one or two just typographical edits to this last Article 26. Or actually, I guess we have another one too, Article 27. We can go through them now really quickly. So there should be a comma under the 3 years section. There should be a comma after 5 constables.
Huh.
And I think, oh, and then my other question was, and maybe this is for Mr. Falk. So technically, you know, our town participates in 2 regional school districts, and I didn't know whether this language of school department was the appropriate language to capture our situation as a participant in 2 regional school districts, Minuteman and Neshoba.
It's a fair point. I think it would work, but you raise a good point that folks are used to seeing regional school district because that's what you have. I think this would work, but I don't think there's any harm in clarifying that that's what this is for. It's operating budgets of the town government, and then probably more precise would be assessments by the regional school districts.
Yeah. Let's I mean, unless you're comfortable that that's the language, we can also just vote on this at the next meeting. Would you want to just pass over it for now?
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I'll work with the town administrator tomorrow just to clarify that.
Okay. And I don't think we need to do anything on Article 27. Okay, thank you, Jenny. And thank you, Mr. Falk. Any other questions for Mr. Falk before I guess we let him go for the evening.
Nope.
Nope.
All right. Thanks so much. Good luck getting through this time of the year.
All right, thank you very much for having me. Take care.
Good night. Great. Thanks, Jenny. Next up, we have some time. Wow, we're actually 5 minutes ahead. We have some time reserved for public comment. This would be public comment on things that aren't otherwise an agenda item tonight. And if people do have comments on things that are later on our agenda, we can always hear from you then as well. But is there anybody that has general public comments that they wish to share tonight? Okay, seeing none, I will turn things over to our town administrator for the town administrator report.
May I share screen, Jenny?
Yes. Yes.
Mhm. The suspense. All right.
Should be all set now.
All good, all good. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
An update on projects which are good but not great. 580 Main Street is proceeding along apace. The conservation agent, the planning director, and the DPW director performed a site visit this morning. They're very pleased with the work that is going on. I provided the board the 3-week look ahead from the construction manager on site, who has been tremendously helpful both to the town staff as well as for the Council on Aging services. We're also starting a valuation on sort of an in-house impact study, as the developer will not be required to produce an impact study until much closer to opening the first building. The unofficial information is that they are hoping by the end of fiscal 25 to have one building available and open. Derby Field has a rescoped application, as our earlier application, which was funded by the state, lacked sufficient funding for us to bid. So we are getting close to submission, and those will be due in April. The Forbush Mill Road stream crossing improvements, or the bridge, it was something that was discussed at the last town meeting, whereby we had cobbled together articles and were able to meet the 10% match. As part of the bidding process, a second cost estimate is required close to bidding. The second cost estimate indicates that should bids come in alignment with that estimate, we would be facing a $227,000 shortfall. These bids are not due until the end of April. We are hopeful that perhaps it was an aberration. The DPW director had walked through with me his plans for our Chapter 90 funding and which of the funds have been committed, and covering that shortfall with Chapter 90 funds is not possible. One potential workaround, though, is the bids are due at the end of April. We're asking for a 60-day bid hold. For the roundabout, one should expect by the end of March to have the contractor mobilized. There will be an additional tree hearing under the direction of the planning board, but their plan is to be on site at the end of this month. They have not yet provided a schedule. Engineering is ongoing, Sawyer Egress, it is definitely on my list. Community Compact, we've received positive indications. We'll be getting 75% of our requested grant. This is for using a lot of the information that has already been collected and is siloed in a way that all departments can access it, as well as access it in the field. And wanted to give a shout out to the conservation agent. The open space and recreation plan had been approved in full, no edits, no changes. And so Bolton will now be eligible up through 2031 for funding from the Division of Conservation. As you are aware, the police department continues the ongoing recruitment for full-time patrol officers. I also want to highlight that Detective Curie attained his 19-year anniversary with the town this month. This is not including the time that he has spent as a reserve officer. It is very commendable. In the packet for the board, I wanted to pass along the governor's authorization for additional Chapter 90 funds, which were distributed to all municipalities. This increase in Chapter 90 has a large caveat, which is this has been proposed by the governor, but it is dependent upon action by the legislature. And the news on the street is that it's looking like a very tough year, or at least a year imbued with uncertainty at the state level. I've been engaging in ongoing meetings with staff and department heads, likewise, based on a great deal of concern for forward planning should the override fail. The thing that I have answered to individuals in the town is, why is the override not tiered? Because they have seen other towns with tiered overrides. I wanted to be clear that what I'm communicating is that in tiered overrides, they typically have ongoing operations as a base, and then any new items, such as let us add a police officer or let us increase hours, to the second tier. In effect, one structures a tiered override by base needs and then any additions. At this point, we don't have this within our configuration and our request for an override to support town and school operating assessment. The most desirable position, given that the base override is, sort of the given, is to be in the base override. What I've seen occur is then this inspires a great deal of infighting among departments, as well as a competition between departments. I strongly disagree with that. I believe that we're a municipality offering services that residents desire and need, period.
Well, excuse me, Marie,
Mhm.
but in our case, it's not a case of we're going to add new items. It's a case of how much we're going to cut. So offering a tiered, do you want to drastically cut, or do you want to cut some? There's not a case of adding new. So our movement forward is to ask the voters to either support a 1.95 and $2 override, or we have to cut 1.95 and $2. So we had this discussion earlier this week, Marie, about offering the voters a choice and whether they not would support that cut or go with the whole enchilada and accept the whole override.
Right.
Can I get an answer from you, Marie?
Oh, I'm
As
agree we
opposed to
had this
silence?
discussion, and I am a believer that all departments within the municipality rise and or fall together. You cannot pull out or cut a department and say, well, it will come back, because the town is on a path whereby we are building in incremental increases by building it into the tax base. So using an example, if a department is eliminated with the idea that that would enable residents to save, $100 on their average tax bill, that department is not coming back. We are still under the constraints of 2.5. And if that department comes back, it would be within 5 or 6 years. If that's what the voters desire, if they're making a decision with the knowledge of the implications and they say this is fine, that's fine too. But I have not been given the direction from the board that there's a desire to, in effect, eliminate a department as a go forward.
I didn't say eliminate a department, Marie, but what you're gambling is either they accept and vote for a $1.95 million override, or they don't, and then everything has to be cut, as opposed to us presenting to the town something that might be rational, which salvages as much as we possibly can, and maybe with bringing something back, or maybe not.
Well, I'm just going to chime in. We had this conversation 2 weeks ago where we explicitly discussed whether we wanted Marie to proceed on the assumption of presenting the all-in number at town meeting. So if we want to revisit that, we can potentially do that in tonight's meeting, but we did agree 2 weeks ago that we wanted to present the single figure as the override at the May 5th meeting. And I think later in our agenda, we have a discussion. I just want to pull open the agenda, but we have a discussion of what the actual cuts would look like if the override should fail. And I think that informs kind of whether we present the full 1.975 to the voters or to do something else. So I'm still not prepared to make a different decision on that right now, but I think we can talk more about it later.
One of the things that I've been communicating to department heads as well as to staff, given the scope of reduction should the override fail, is that one needs to have a contingency plan. The employees of the town are adults and should be kept in the loop so that they too are aware that there is a decision that the voters will be making which may impact their own livelihood. The library is looking at severely reduced hours, bringing it down to the minimum to maintain certification. I have broached a number with the library director as well, and she has shared that with the library trustees. I can't say these are the hours that she would be open, but we'd be looking at something akin to Ashby. And this would also mean the reduction of the children's programs, the teen programs, and a lot of interlibrary loans. The Council on Aging Services, which is the item that pains me the most, would be closed. Unlike other departments, there isn't a Mass General law that obligates an entity to assume those assistance services. The Council on Aging, as you're aware, is not exclusively activities for seniors, and they are definitely there when they are not within their open for drop-in hours. They perform a great deal of work within the community, and it's devastating. I feel this is terrifically terrible. The transfer station would be closed. The Department of Public Works, upon discussion with the Public Works Director, has acknowledged that the public ways improvement line in the budget could be severely limited. His secondary plan would be use of orange cones for catch basin and cleaning and the like. Other activities performed by the department would be sharply reduced, such as, the summer mowing. This also ties into, if we can just jump over fire and police, park and recreation with beach, as well as park and recreation staffing. When discussing how the DPW director does not wish to carry then the full amount of the summer kids hours, since 80% of that is park and recreation. Park and Recreation stated that they will then be relaying to the private sports teams that they private teams are responsible for mowing. Within the fire department, there are 3 line items that would be eliminated. One of them would be maintenance of the fire ponds as well as the cisterns, the cadet program, and some miscellaneous administrative costs. The police cruiser is eliminated. What this means is that we are out of sync and out of cycle for a planned replacement. Cruisers are kept and rotated through. Basically, it is truly the example of penny wise and pound foolish, but we would be in a position of having, only pennies. So the police chief has agreed to, should the override fail, that the cruiser would be eliminated. I've also asked him for a reduction in addition to that, trying to meet a certain number to reach that 971. As mentioned for Park and Rec, this would mean no lifeguards on the beach. So it would be changed to a swim at your own risk, and Park and Rec staffing, as well as other ancillary benefits of, decor, Halloween candy type things. That would all go. Within conservation, there would be staff reductions, as well as, upon discussion with the Conservation Commission Chair and the conservation agent, reductions within their land maintenance. Unfortunately, some of this would be affecting some of Bolton's most popular conservation parcels, but they're sort of trying to likewise back into a number. There's a second set of reductions that I have discussed with the select board chair. That is approximately $507,000. I'm not prepared at this time to state these publicly. One thing that I was very clear about in my communications is that I don't want someone finding out about this through a rumor or a posting, but want people to find out about it first from me well before this meeting. So that is what I'm prepared to share tonight.
Well, when is the rest of the select board gonna know what this extra $507,000 reduction is? Because it doesn't seem like we're having a real select board conversation about this. I'm getting really upset about the mystery around this stuff. And I'm also getting upset that we're willing to tell the voters it's either 1.975 and $2 or nothing. And now you're listing, a whole list of things that may be reduced, as opposed to us looking at and making some constructive decisions and offering the voters what our best estimate is for what might be reduced to reduce the overall tax override on the citizens.
All right.
I'm appalled that you're going to announce it to the town, but I don't even know what this other $507,000 in reductions is. What's going on, folks? What's going on?
So I will chime in here and first just say the way you have just characterized things, Stan, is completely inaccurate and misleading, and I'm going to set the record straight. We as a select board have to operate according to the open meeting law, which means we have to deliberate publicly so that everybody knows what we're talking about. There's a timing issue related to, as Marie pointed out, when do actual town hall employees hear from their employer that their job is potentially on the line? So I spent the better part of an entire day last week. Well, let me back up. Our budget is $34 million. When you take out the education component, the town's budget is basically 11 million. We have to find 2 million out of that 11 million to cut. because we can't take any of it out of the education side. So to find $2 million in an $11 million budget, which, as you know, is already quite slim because we have been managing that budget very conservatively for the past decade plus, means that you're looking at human beings' jobs being eliminated. So, two things. I'm quite sure that you have received information. Now, we can't share all of that yet because we haven't even had time for Marie to talk with all the affected employees. We're trying to share the information with the public as soon as we can, but we also need to be respectful of people who have lives to plan. So, I'm sorry that we can't give all the information to everybody on the exact same day, but we're not hiding the ball. And we are trying to communicate to the public as soon as we possibly can. I respect the fact that Marie worked over the past 4 days to connect with everybody that's affected in the first $1 million that we did share publicly tonight. You do have an email, Stan, with information about where we think the full 1.9 million is going to come from. So to say that you haven't heard about this before tonight is simply not true. But the details have to be shared with employees before we can tell the entire public. And I'm confident that Marie and this entire board will be in a position to share all of those details at the next select board meeting in 2 weeks. And we fully intend to keep sharing this information between now and town meeting. And I just want to say one thing. Getting intense and emotional and accusatory isn't going to help the situation, because everybody here is trying to make the best decisions for the taxpayer in a really miserable situation. I just want to point out a few things. Dozens of towns are facing this situation last year, this year, next year, 2 years before, because inflation has vastly outpaced the 2.5% increase that we're constrained by for Prop 2.5. That has been happening for the past several years. It is a structural hurdle that many towns are facing right now. And I know that all three of us can say that on the town side of the equation, we do not have fat in our budget. We don't have departments that are overstaffed. In fact, as we know, we have a police department who's actively trying to keep our department at a level that we need for public safety. And I don't like the implication that you're sending to people watching this, that there's been some secret decisions reached that haven't been shared yet. We're just trying to do it in a humane way for people whose lives are affected.
Well, Mr. Boyle, thank you very much, but please don't lecture me. I've been doing this a lot longer than you have. A lot longer. So please do not lecture me.
All right, well then let's just
I have been trying for a long time to deal with this budget, to deal with the school budget, and I've gotten no cooperation from you for a long time. So we can take this offline.
Well,
but I want to do the best. I want to do please, Kate, I want to do the best for the citizens of the town of Bolton. And I don't feel that we have in this particular situation. And I understand that there are certain things we can't say, but the full picture hasn't been illuminated. I haven't gotten the answers that I've been asking for a long time. And right now, we're expecting the voters of this town to approve almost $2 million of override. And I watched the video you did with Penny, you and Marie, talking about the budget. We're talking about a tax increase of $1,800 for the average citizen. That is a lot. And I don't think the voters have had enough information yet to understand what that means and why they should vote yes for an override.
Nobody is going to disagree with you that the voters need more information between now and town meeting. I completely agree. All we're saying is there are steps that have to be taken so that information is shared appropriately and in a humane way for the employees. The last thing I want is for any voter in Bolton to walk into annual town meeting not knowing what the stakes are, not knowing how we got here, and not knowing what it means. And Kate, I think you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, I just like to point out, I am the newest member here. I came onto this board in May, knowing the situation, the financial situation, because the select board was telegraphing it loud and clear from the rooftops last year. We knew this was coming. We have been talking about this at nearly every meeting since I've been on the board. This is not new. This is not surprising. The budget season happens over a certain period of time from December until now. And, the numbers aren't finalized. We didn't know what the numbers were. We've been operating on the assumption that we were somewhere in the $1.7 million range for months and months and months. So I think it's disingenuous for anybody to be suggesting that we are somehow hiding the information or that it has not been publicly available here at the select board, at advisory, which has been meeting on basically a weekly basis for months, and at the school committee where they've been talking about their budget. So if people are paying attention, people have known exactly what is coming down the pike. And what is happening right now is the details are coming out in terms of what exactly it is. Over the next few weeks, the public will get as much information as we can push out to them in terms of what the service cuts may look like and how to go about thinking about the issues. So I also resent the implication that this somehow is secretive news that is just not been made available.
No, I've never said it was secretive news, but we're not getting the full picture from our town administrator. And quite frankly, to the both of you and to our town administrator, I presented back in November when we had a meeting right after Thanksgiving, something that we could approach the district with, who represents well over 60% of our town budget. Some areas that they could look at to prune to help us. I talked about shared sacrifice, and everybody refused to look at that and refused to bring that to the attention of either the school district or the administration. Absolutely. So that's where we're in this boat, because part of it, we could have reduced a little bit of it if we approached and constructively talked to the district and the school committee, and nobody wanted to do that. Nobody wanted to do that.
Well, I'd like to say in response to that, if I may, first of all, I think we all probably independently have had conversations with people at the school district about their budget. And we've also heard the presentation from them. They're cutting a ton of full-time teachers out of our district. That is not what the parents in this town want for their kids. I'm sure that there are people who may be watching now who they're just hearing for the first time. They're cutting teachers. They're cutting administrators. All of the deans that are the student-facing adults who greet your kids every day and deal with their problems are getting cut. So to say that the school district hasn't done a good amount in terms of feeling the pain here, I think a lot of people would disagree with you.
Well, no, I hear that, and unfortunately it's the same thing that happens every year, where they cut the front end staff, but there's still a lot that is represented in what I presented back to you in November that could have been looked at. And I don't disagree that they are cutting front end staff, and there's no doubt about that. But there is other staff that they could have looked at, that we could have brought to their attention and had a discussion, and we didn't do that.
How do you know that, Stan?
Brian, you saw the spreadsheets.
I know, but I'm saying you are asserting as fact. You have asserted as fact that we have not heard your concerns. We have not spoken to the school. You don't know
when did we? Brian, when did we invite the school committee in to have a conversation? When did we have a conversation with Kirk Bounty? When did our town administrator have a conversation about that very list of positions? And yes, they did eliminate some, but there's a whole lot more, Brian.
Listen, I'm sure that all three members of this select board have spoken with the superintendent and our school committee reps expressing our concerns. You tend to think that what we should do is call the school committee into a meeting of the select board. And we had a tri-town meeting with Stowe and Lancaster so we could discuss this as an issue. I don't want to continue the conversation about whether, we have taken those concerns to heart, because the fact is we have, and we've been talking with the school committee and the school district administration. The fact is, though, legally speaking, they are a separate entity. Their vote gets approved through a separate process. And there's a limit to how much we as a single select board can do. So we can advocate, we can talk about the situation that we're in, but the school district has its own budget approval process and also has their own representation through the school committee. So again,
Yes, and those people represent the town of Bolton.
I
And they
understand.
represent the other two towns.
I understand
And
that.
and you know what, Brian, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Well, and if I can just say one more thing, which is I am not an education expert, so when it is represented to me that the administrative staff is necessary to provide special education support, curriculum support, and things that are legally required with regard to running a school district, I take that at face value.
Okay,
But what we're talking about has nothing to do about
we're gonna close this
any of those
agenda
things.
item.
But let's just stop, because we're never going to agree on this, and we're in this boat because we haven't agreed on this. So let's just figure out how we're going to get the voters to cough up the 1.975 and $2 override.
So, Marie, I just want to confirm that this is the close of your town administrator report. And we will move on to the next items of select board business. Are there any public service announcements?
God, no.
Any future agenda items?
As I stated earlier, we need to have at least another signatory on spending from revolving accounts.
Okay. Any select board reports?
No.
I think we have had a discussion of the FY26 budget and override. Is there anything further on that for now? Okay. We had started, we have next continuation of a discussion on the senior age 61 plus transfer station trash bag program. Marie, if you wouldn't mind just kind of recapping where things stand as of tonight.
All right. When we last left the transfer station story, there was interest in the column on the left, eliminating the taxpayer subsidy upon a vote of the board. The sticker prices went into effect February 28th for the large and the small bag. The bag prices, I'm sorry, went into effect on the 28th of February. The thing that was an open question was just to confirm that there'd be a two-tiered sticker price, that seniors would be receiving $100 worth of bags. And then in the context of the override, in the context of what I had just mentioned, given that closing the transfer station as a discrete item is an option, I found myself wondering if it made sense at this moment to proceed forward with requiring individuals using the transfer station to obtain a sticker. For this reason, I asked the board, how do you wish for us to proceed? We can definitely proceed apace on the sticker angle. But there is, as folks have mentioned, a great deal of uncertainty regarding the success of the override.
I guess I would open it up for discussion.
I actually thought we had agreed to institute the $100 sticker fee and the tiered pricing for the bags for seniors at the last meeting. And not knowing whether the override is going to pass or not, I think we should just move forward with approving this and see what happens.
Sorry, my dogs are currently singing. So that's fine. Yeah, I agree with Stan. We can just move forward at this point, and if we need to readdress things in the future, we can do that after we have more information about where we stand.
Okay, does that give sufficient guidance, Marie?
That does. Just to confirm, then the seniors will be receiving the $100 worth of free bags as well as the $40 discount off the sticker price.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. And then we have to review a disclosure by a special municipal employee. Could you tee this one up for us, Marie?
Certainly. The select board, but 2 decades ago, had voted certain types of employees as special municipal employees. What this means is that an employee can be compensated in one department as well as serving in a different role in another department. I had received an invoice from Erica Mond requesting reimbursement for her art instruction during the summer. As she is a special municipal employee, I requested that she file a disclosure, actually that she speak with the Ethics Commission that recommended the filing of a disclosure. It's a little bit different in that she is both serving in a professional capacity as an art teacher, as well as in a volunteer capacity for the Park and Rec Commission, sort of a vertical silo. The information that I'd received from council was that the select board should review the said disclosure and take a vote. And ergo, then, should the vote be support, I would be able to pay her.
I just had one question, and I'm sorry, I tried to look for this earlier, but this is in anticipation, or this is for last year?
This is from fiscal 25, but activities performed in July and August of fiscal 25.
Okay. Any discussion?
Marie, did you not say that special municipal employee acting in one capacity in one department could perhaps do something in yet another department? Not the same?
That is the yes, that is the definition of the special municipal employee. As much as I cringe at the legal bill, I also did consult with our counsel at Myrick on this regarding the process. They had advocated that this would be the process to take.
And do we have anything, because I did ask our treasurer and I guess acting HR person, do we have anything on record that, do we have a contract? Do we have any anything that there's an agreement that this was going to be done? Any agreement on the rate of pay or anything?
In terms of that, no, we do not.
Okay. I have a copy of the invoice, and it doesn't say anything relative to what the individual did, or I mean, it just basically says weeks and an hourly rate, and that's it. It doesn't even describe anything. So we don't have anything The invoice doesn't describe anything. We have nothing we have a contract with the individual, which I believe we had discussed earlier on that nothing gets paid without a contract. And we have nothing that approves the individual doing the work. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is the work. In August. I was also informed by the accountant that this payment had already gone through during the prior year.
And was there any?
Ergo, I ask now, but I wasn't here the prior year. And
Right.
seeing it and then just raising and asking.
Okay. Well, it wasn't proper either, but we're talking about the current year. I'm inclined to say no, because there's nothing here that says anything was approved, anything was discussed. We have no contract. We have no agreement on rate. We have no information on what was done. And we have an invoice that lacks complete, no detail whatsoever. So I'm inclined not to pay it.
What question, Stan, if
no, it shouldn't be done after the fact, to the fact. No, I don't think so. No. No, I don't think so. No. No.
I'm just curious, I'm not seeing the invoice in my package. I see the disclosure forms. Is there something else that I don't have?
I had received the invoice last year when I became aware of this. So this was something that I was aware of quite some time ago.
Oh.
Well, I mean, I think the pieces of information that Stan identified would be actually very helpful to have. So I would rather reconsider this if we can get that at a future date.
Can do.
But
the other problem I have is that this individual was the chairman of Park and Rec at the time. And the special municipal employee says we're working in some other department, and clearly this is not the case here at all.
She's also an elected official.
Yes.
I have run this by council.
So, I think it would be helpful. I don't know if Kate, if you agree that we should reconsider this as at a future meeting if we can get the additional information about rate, details on what services were provided, how many weeks, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to review that. I don't feel like I have all the information right now.
Okay. Thank you. Next item is to review the revised proclamation policy. And I think Jenny, I don't know if you want to share screen.
Would you like me to share the screen showing the red lines, or would you like me to share a clean copy? I could do either.
I think probably showing the red lines just so people are aware.
Yep, just 1 minute. Do you want to let me know when to advance?
Sure, but I think you were going to get rid of the word public service in front of proclamations in that second paragraph. Or that was a change I had proposed.
Yep, sorry. And Tell me again where it is, right
So
there?
right in that second sentence where it says these public service proclamations, it's not called that anywhere else. So for consistency's sake, we'll just call it these proclamations.
Right here.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yep. Okay.
I think we need to
And-
renumber paragraphs 4, 5, and 6 since 3 came out.
Oh, good point.
And the only change to the form was the removal of this item.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'm happy with it in its current form.
Yep.
Fine.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the proclamation policy.
Second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Okay. Next up, discussion of use of AI, artificial intelligence, for minutes. Jenny, thank you for kind of helping to tee some of this up. I don't know if you want to speak on this at all, your experience with it.
Yeah, I can. So I think I let you guys know that I reached out to the company and asked for a couple of weeks extension on their free service while I explore it, because I found it really tedious. And I'm not sure that it was a program that would be used widely by staff here unless I got a bad feel for it, and maybe my second go would be a lot easier. So I would love a couple more weeks to explore, but for now, I would just love to hear your feedback if you guys have any ethical questions or concerns with using AI for minute generation, and how you felt the draft minutes that I shared with you were.
Any comments or reflections?
I mean, I think it's a helpful tool in the toolbox, but I guess I have concerns about relying on it entirely. I think there's something about the human component that, you know, reflects better in the minutes. I might be useful to, you know, kind of generate some information as long as, you know, it's really being gone over carefully. So I guess I don't know how much of a time savings it is at that point, but, you know, I don't have an ethical problem with it being used. I have an ethical problem with it being relied on exclusively.
Yep. My feeling is like if the people who are responsible for creating minutes found it to be helpful, and if it was not unreasonable in terms of cost, we didn't want it to be unavailable as a tool. But what you said in one of your reflections, Jenny, about how you actually sort of like the process of re-listening to meetings to capture the minutes, I thought that you lose a little bit of that if you rely on the AI tool. So I think give you some more time, certainly, to keep thinking about it, but I don't think we should decide one way or the other tonight.
And the other thing I'd like to do in the next couple of weeks, because Zoom, as you know, does have a tool, and I have it on right now, to capture a recap of this meeting or a summary of this meeting. So when I'm doing the minutes for this week, I'll compare the two and see if there's really enough that's being gained by using this program versus just utilizing the summary in the process of doing minutes.
Sounds good.
And I'll report back.
Thank you so much.
Mhm. Oh, one question I did have. When AI is used as a tool for doing minutes, should it be noted in the minutes themselves?
I think during this trial period, yeah, for sure.
I would think if it was adopted permanently, then yeah, I do think it's worth noting always.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next is vote of intention to lay out Goose Pond Path. And I think at the end of our packet, that included all of the relevant documentation that we need when we're going through this process. I guess question for you, Marie, there's the quick claim deed for roadway and easements, and just confirming that this has been reviewed.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Discussion from the board on this?
I haven't been through this process before, so I'm gonna follow your lead on it.
I'm fine with it.
So I think actually that is a good question. We're voting our intention to lay out Goose Pond Path. So do we just vote in the affirmative, and then the next step is the actual laying out at a future meeting?
Yes, that you vote to intend that you will lay out on March 27th to lay out there's, I believe it's page 25 within the packet. Which has a,
Oh, sorry, the language.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So is there a motion to vote in favor of accepting, or is there a motion in favor of holding a public hearing on Thursday, March 27th at 7 p.m. To accept the layout of Goose Pond Path as a public way?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Stan?
yes.
Kate?
Yes.
I'm also a yes.
and
uh,
and propose that the laying out of the way be referred to the planning board for a report.
And okay, so we'll amend that motion to propose, say that again, propose that the planning board.
To propose the proposed laying out of way be referred to the planning board for a report.
Okay,
So moved.
Second,
okay, roll call. Stan?
yes.
Kate?
Yes.
I'm also yes.
And as I stated earlier in the meeting, I will notify the abutters as well as the planning board tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. We have some open session minutes. Jenny, are you able to show those?
Yes.
Thank you.
And this was for February 13th.
Sorry, are you sharing your screen?
I'm just about to.
Sorry.
Just confirming I had the right set. I double check everything I do after 9 p.m.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of February 13th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes,
Also yes.
And did you want to take action on the minutes that were generated by AI on February 27th? Or for February 27th, or
I would actually like to wait a second.
okay.
Okay. And then last thing is approval of bills / payroll warrants W25-18 and W25-18A.
I will make a motion to approve those bills and payroll warrants.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes,
Okay, and then is there a motion to now enter into executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation with the police, fire, and DPW unions because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the town?
so moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes,
Okay, and I'm a yes as well. And just for the record, we will return to open session for the purpose of adjourning at some point later tonight. Oh, sorry, Jenny, you're muted, but I think you're saying time for the record is 9:07.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
I'm also a yes.
and
Right.
for the record is 9:23.
Thanks. Good night. Get some rest.
Good night.
Good night.